So excited to be joined by best-selling author, speaker, motivational guru, Tommy Breedlove. Tommy, how's it going this morning?
Good morning, Hamilton. I'm doing amazing. Thank you for it's an early morning here. It's going to be a beautiful day in Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm super excited to be here.
Well,
you know some really cool people, by the way. You know some really cool people.
we have some cool folks. We have some cool folks that come around. None cooler than you, from what I understand. And you were saying something a little bit earlier, which is we don't really know how we became acquainted. This is actually probably the first time that we've talked. So getting to meet someone live on a podcast is a pretty cool experience. I don't think I'm going to forget this anytime soon. So sure.
I love it though. I mean, when we have the networks that it's really cool when you come together and people say that you two should know each other. We have to listen to that, right? Especially during these days.
Absolutely. There's too many stars aligning for us not to. Why don't we start here? Give us a little bit of background on you as a person, what you do, and kind of how this all came to be.
I'm very fortunate these days. For the last 10 years, who I am and what I do are actually the same person. And so I grew up in big public accounting, financial consulting, mergers and acquisitions, think Deloitte & Touche type firms, and did that for 20 years. Went through a massive transition in my life and really transformed myself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, you name it. And went through this drastic change, never intended to leave the financial world. And when I transformed my life, the most amazing things happened to me from a network standpoint, a money standpoint, a happiness standpoint, a fulfillment, but also professional success. And so when I decided to make me my full-time job at 36 years old, by 39, I was a senior partner, board of director, and ran the international practice for a large public accounting and financial consulting firm in the Southeast. But what was cool, and this is who I am and what I do, all came together. When I went through that transition, so many people, from bankers to lawyers to entrepreneurs to you name it, advertising execs to managers to just normal folks like you and I, all reached out to me and they said, "Look, man, you didn't give up your ambition or drive, but you seem a whole lot more happy, fulfilled, and have peace of mind that I've never seen before. Tell me what drug you're taking and how do I do that?" And I was like, "Well, brother," there's no magic pill and there's no light switch. It's a lot of hard work. And so about the 20th person that asked me that, I knew that public speaking and writing, and I do a lot of one-on-one coaching on business, mindset and relationships, but also do a lot of retreats and I run a lot of masterminds, group coaching with a lot of folks. And it's just a holistic approach to help them be as the best they can be in all phases of their life, from money to business, but also relationships with their significant other, their family, their friends, their network, and also just to be better humans. You know, we all have got these things in our head that tell us we're not good enough, and we all have problems with loving and respecting ourselves. So we take a holistic approach to helping humans be the best they can be. And as you can see behind me, what we say now is we help people build and live legendary lives. And so I'm super excited to be here, Hamilton. I'm very fortunate that who I am and what I do are the same things now, because I'm a person doing the same thing every single day. I get up to be a little bit better than I was the day before. And so that's my tribe is people who are just a little bit better each and every day. And that's who I love. That's
wonderful. It's being synonymous with what you do is not necessarily always a good thing. My dad's a judge, right? And he said, "I'm a judge, but that's what I do. That's not who I am," right? If he walked in his robe and all he did was, reign as a judge at the dinner table, it wouldn't be great. But at the end of the day, to have the opportunity to make what you do synonymous with who you are, especially with, I got the sun peeking through here. Let me get out of the middle of the sun.
I love this virtual world, right? The virtual world we live in.
You never know what's going to come in through the window, but seeing the light in your eyes, it's contagious. It's contagious. And I want to go back to your time in public accounting and start there. What, through that experience, did you bring over into what you do now? I always contribute what I love about what I do now from what I hated about what I used to do. But
that's a great question, by the way. I never knew this, but I am so grateful that I spent 20 years in financial consulting, public accounting, financial audits, and mergers and acquisitions, because I think it's my differentiator, right? As I take a holistic approach, whether I'm working with someone as a human or their companies or helping them facilitate a board meeting or running a mastermind, it gives me, I spent 20 years in that world, and it gives me a holistic approach in a big picture sense of all things money, efficiency, productivity, debt, scaling, profitability, and all the things that, I'm a big believer that money is super important. I think it's a magnifying glass, right? If you're a high impact person, you can make high impact if you have a lot of money. And if you're not the nicest person in the world, you can do real harm with it. But for us who are in the impact space, is I want people to be as profitable and as cash flow positive as possible, so that they can go make great impact in the world. And so that 20 years of experience, and I learned so much. And I started at the highest of the high. So I was at Deloitte, and those are $1 billion Fortune 500 companies. And then when I spent most of my career though in the middle market space, so 1 million in revenue to 500 million in revenue. And so working with those privately held business owners and seeing their pain, seeing their strengths, seeing their weaknesses, seeing their triumphs and their tragedies and everything in between allows me to help serve my clients now, both professionally and personally, because I've spent 10 years perfecting the personal craft, right? But I can bring all that professional experience and all that knowledge that was bestowed on me, from training to just real life wisdom from the financial audits. And so it's just helped me to be it's helped me to be a better coach, a better mentor, a better facilitator. And so I'm very, very thankful. I never would have thought 20 years ago, or actually it's about 25 years ago, when I got into that world, that I would be able to use it like I use it now. Because I was in it and it was all about billable hours and utilization and realization. I didn't love it like I love it now, but I'm so thankful I had the accounting degree and was able to go into that world. And now it allows me to help people from a holistic sense, because business and money are super important. And I carry the burdens and successes and also the pains of a lot of very successful people. And it allows me to do what I do so much better than if I didn't have it. If I was just a life coach, it would be very hard for me to help people on the business and profitability standpoint.
I love that. I've always said that greatness is found at the crossroads of passion and gifts. And it seems
that's awesome.
It seems like that you're doing just that, right? I could go into a room full of accounting students and for us to say, hey, you may or may not use your accounting degree. I can guarantee you that when you were in college, there was a good chance that you didn't think you'd be using your accounting degree to be a coach and speak life to other people. But you're finding that greatness at the crossroads between your passion and your gifts, and that's encouraging to everybody watching. I want to get a little bit of insight from you as to the relationship aspect, because I know when you make a giant paradigm shift like you did, that it's probably not the easiest thing for most families or friends to come to terms with. If Tommy's, he's making a 180 and he's going a whole different direction than where he's been. How was that? How did that affect your relationship with either your wife or your family or your coworkers? If you're willing to give us a little bit of insight into that.
Oh, I will 1000% give you insight into that. So I was the majority breadwinner in my household. I'm going to be very transparent here, but I met my wife at the University of Georgia in our accounting program. I went to the public side, which is firms, it's more consulting and public accounting, and she went private. So she would Georgia Pacific, British Petroleum, and now she's the CFO of a large, probably, if not I think it is the largest vinyl and fabric distributor in the United States. And so she's the CFO of a big company. Yeah. So we met in accounting school, so it made it a little bit easier, but I was the majority breadwinner. We had planned on me exiting. I was a partner. I was an owner of the firm and I was on the board, and 60% of the revenue that came into this household was mine. And, I'm very fortunate that my wife is also very successful, but at the same time, we had planned on me. I just didn't love it anymore. And so it was important for me when I said, I just don't love this. I feel like I'm going to become the cancer because it's just not my calling. And all these other people are reaching out to me. So I knew coaching was my calling, but we had this timeline, which was 10 months from when I actually resigned. I called her on Valentine's Day. in my Jeep riding to work. And I have coaches and mentors in my life that I pay and also are private. But I just had an amazing session with my coach, Nancy Vito. And I was like, I'm quitting today. And she's like, what? I was like, no, I'm quitting today. And so was it painful? Yes. Was it stressful? Yes. Did it cause us any issues in our relationship? Absolutely not. But I'm very fortunate on that end. So I'm very transparent about that. If I was the sole breadwinner, it would have been hard for me to just quit and go pursue my passion, what I was meant to do in life. It would have been much longer transition. I would have had to plan it much more. But because I had her oakness, for lack of a better word, I call her the oak in my life and deep roots, because I had her and her unconditional support. She goes, baby, we talked about this and, October is our time frame. I was like, no, I got to do it today. And, that was 7 years ago. And what I thought was success and happiness and fulfillment. And, we give ourselves these. I was at the top of the game. There was no higher I could go within the firm. And I thought I had to overcome more of my internal fears and insecurities and the titles and the falseness that I gave myself as opposed to she did. But did it cause some strains in our relationships? No. But it's not something that I would have done if it was just me. It would have been a much slower process to go into this world than to just drop the ball. And when you're an owner of a firm, here's the truth, Hamilton, you just don't walk away. So I resigned in February, but May 1st was the time I actually left because you got to gracefully in the right way transition your clients, get there's legalities when you own the firm and all that good stuff. And so I actually, I think April 30th was my last day. And then May 1st started my journey into this world. So it's really cool.
Wow. Yeah. There's a right way to do things. And then there's a way that a lot of folks choose to do things. So it's good to hear you did it the right way. 7 years ago, right? And
7 years.
Take the Tommy Breedlove 7 years ago and introduce him to the Tommy Breedlove in April of 2020. What are some things that guy would have said? Wow, you just knocked it out of the park. This is farther than I ever thought I'd go. And some things that you said, hey, this is a little bit different than I expected it 7 years ago. I love thinking about the timeline and looking at another version of me that doesn't know all the things that this version of me does. And then you look forward and say, there's another version of me that knows way more than I do right now. What are those versions of you saying to one another? And give us a little bit of insight into that. I'm not kidding, Hamilton. I'm not even going to joke with you here. I do 10 podcasts a week. And that's probably the best question I've been asked in like 2 years. So thank you for that. I was like, that's a great question. I'm going to give you the positives first. And then, so when I was 39 years old, senior partner, board member, international practice leader, that's what's defined me. And so I thought that success, that prestige, that title, there used to be when we would go to these networking events, these lines that would stand there and hopefully network with me, right? And so when you drop all that, I thought my success, my prestige, I was very scared, and I'm being very honest. Looking, almost 8 years later, 7 years later now, what I thought was success, what I thought was a lot of money, what I thought was a great network is 10x different than what it was when I was closed in that financial world where it was bankers and entrepreneurs and corporate executives. Now my Rolodex is 10x, my happiness is 10x, my money is 10x. And I'm not saying that to brag because when I was stuck in that world, I only thought that was what success looked like because I didn't have the confidence to go out and be an entrepreneur and hang my own shingle and know how successful you could be in the coaching, mastermind, speaking space because it was unknown to me. It was just a calling. And back then I didn't even care if I made any money. I just wanted to go serve people. But when you serve people with authenticity and transparency and vulnerability, and you speak your truth, people tend to buy that and you become more successful. So that I had no idea back then how successful I could become. And I had no idea that the book you see behind me was going to be a national bestseller. I had no idea I would build a world-class business mindset and relationship practice for coaching. I had no idea back then. I just wanted to go change people's lives. And so that's what I didn't know. Here's the tough is how hard it is to be an entrepreneur. Back then I had 10 other partners to help me hold up the firm that I could lean on, that we could make the payroll for 100 plus people.
When you go out on your own and you carry the burdens of your employees, you carry the burdens of your customers, your vendors, and everything in between. And we're in a difficult time right now as we're recording this. This is the coronavirus COVID-19 phase. How difficult it would be, and the pressures and the burdens when you don't have other people to lean on, when it's just you and your shingle and your roof. And we have five people that count on us every single day. And so I didn't realize how difficult entrepreneurship it is. It's a sexy word, right? I mean, it's sexy for all of us to go to be entrepreneurs, but the pressures that you carry each and every day to make sure your people are safe, to make sure they're paid, and to make sure they're happy. Also, your clients and your customers, and the marketing, the administration, the finance, everything that goes in between. It's easy to consult on it. There's a famous saying: there's people who teach and people who do. Well, when you're in my world, your job is to teach, but you got to do as well.
Absolutely.
or you're dead. And so I didn't realize how fortunate I was back in the public accounting days at HLB to know how much I leaned. And those people were super smart. They were super good people to lean on. But when it's just you, and we're expanding, we've got joint ventures and other partnerships coming up. But you carry the burden on your own. It's a whole lot different, and you're carrying what I call the profit burden, right? The people that you hold under your arms. And for most of the clients I work with, we take that very serious. People say that business is evil. I don't know any evil businesses. I don't know them. They're not in my world. The people that I know and that I work with, we take it very serious. We take our employees very serious. We take our customers very serious. And this is what we do and who we are. And so I didn't realize how tough that was going to be.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. You made two really, really strong points, and I don't want to gloss right over them. One being that you went out to make people's lives better, to serve other people. And through that, you became a best-selling author and a successful business owner. It seems like you have probably served more people and made more of an impact by going in with that mindset, and the results or the wake that you left behind was so much greater than it would be if you went out to become a best-selling author or a successful business owner, and then the results being that you impacted lives or that you served others, right? It's all the mindset that you go in with, and it's strong because you got your books behind you, and we're going to touch on those in just a second. But I go to Passion City Church. Louis Giglio is our pastor.
Oh, he's a rock star, brother.
He is a rock star. He's a rock star. I love listening to him, being someone who loves communication, and I would love to eventually get into what you do. He says that men, especially, because I know looking at your website, you focus a lot on the lives that men lead. Men tend to isolate and insulate. And that whole 10xing your network and 10xing your impact, once you broke out of that isolation and insulation of your own career and your own network, had an exponential impact on you. So I didn't want to gloss right over that point, because that was 2 home runs that you hit. And for us to just blow right past them would be a disservice. So let's dig into your book a little bit. Why legendary? Because I know you talk a lot about living a legendary life. Why legendary? And give us a little bit of insight into the book writing process, because I know probably a lot of people, including myself, would love to do that. I'm in the process of trying to put some words on paper to do something like what you've done. Let us know a little bit about that process.
So I want to go back real quick, Hamilton.
Yeah.
You just hit me right in the eyes again, man. This has been amazing early morning, and I'm so thankful that I'm here.
Absolutely.
I'm in a mastermind group that I pay to be in, to surround myself with people who help make me better. And it's called Iron Sharpens Iron.
Yep.
And the great Aaron Walker is the leader of that group. And he says isolation, especially for us men, isolation is the enemy of excellence. And isolation for us men right now is extremely dangerous.
Absolutely.
We like to seem like we're stoic and we've got everything together. And don't ask me, I got this. But at the end of the day, we crave connection, we crave consultation, and we crave mentorship, and we crave fellowship. And I think something you just said really resounded with me, and I wanted to say that. And so for any men that are isolating out there, especially during these difficult times, it'll kill us. You know, we crave connection. We need mentorship. We need fellowship. And so the fact that you brought up Passion City and all that, I wanted to say that. So it's very important because I see a lot of people isolating these days, and it's a dangerous, and all of us probably want to a little bit, right? We're like, just bury our heads in sand, but we got to move forward. So Legendary, let's get to the book. I'm super excited about it. I'm going to hold it up there. Woo, there it is on video. The reason we picked the title Legendary, which is a bold title, right? In a world of constant self-promotion, if you and I called ourselves legends, people would laugh us out of the room. So what I like about the title Legendary, it's something that our society, our peers, our all the people give to us. And you can be a great legend in life, think MLK, the Gandhis, the Jesuses of the world, or you can be a horrible legend. And we all know who those were. And so to me, building and living a legendary life is something we all aspire to. I'm certainly no legend, but I aspire to be known as a legend. And for me, the book is what saved my life at 36 years old. And as I deployed it out into the world, I've seen it from discovering our purpose in life, to reconquering our time, to mastering our mindset, to building our network, to finding unconditional love for ourselves, building financial confidence in those intimate relationships with our significant others and our families and friends. So this book is literally the simple tools and stories, and it's a simple read, and it's simple fun, but it literally saved my life. And I've seen it literally change countless of other people for peace of mind and happiness without compromising their ambition, drive, or success. And so I think it's a book that's not a luxury anymore. It's a necessity. And I'm very proud of it. And I'm super humble that it has become a Wall Street Journal and USA Today national bestseller. And so it really, it's a holistic approach to business, life, love, family, and it's ancient wisdom compiled in a very easy, simple task to read. Now, here's the truth. The writing process was 3 years. And it was the, you got the demon and the angel on your shoulder, in your ear, right? Telling you to write the book. And, I have somewhat of an interesting story that some other people have told me, and how I was raised and what I overcame in my life. And so, it was 3 years in the making. It started in a completely different way than it ended up. And, what I would say to everyone who's out there who wants to write a book, the only challenge you're going to have is you. And, it's like leadership. Is the hardest thing to lead is ourselves, right? And the thing we have to overcome as writers or artists or entrepreneurs or business leaders, and those are all the same thing, right? Every great athlete or artist or business leader, we all have a craft, and your craft is very important. And maybe it has been said before, but it hasn't been said before in your voice. And once I realized that, and once I realized the book was no longer about me, the book was not about my pride, my ego, and my fame. The book was what saved my life. And I've seen it literally help hundreds of other men and women around the world. I made it about them. And I wrote a book that I thought would be a 5-generation book. And what I mean by that is that 5 generations now could read it and they could apply it in their life. All these different things, from purpose to meaning to fulfillment to financial confidence. And so when I stopped making it about me and how good the words were, and this has been said, and I'm a huge reader, by the way, this has been said before, but maybe for all of us listening, maybe you're strawberry. You're the flavor strawberry, and everybody right now needs strawberry. And all the other books were chocolate, right? And so never minimize the way you say things, who you are and what you stand for, because your story is unique. You are unique. Your wounds are unique. Your triumphs are unique. And so for me, once I realized, maybe this has been written before, but it's never been written in my voice. It's never been written in this way. And it's never been said here. And that made me overcome it, because we're all a product of who we hang around, what we know, what we read, who we're mentored by, and the friends that we hang out with, all of us. So none of our thoughts are actually original, but our voice is very original. Our soul is very original. Our blood is very original. And this book right here is all about my soul and blood. And I'm a recovering perfectionist, brother. And so that self-critic in my head is very strong, very strong.
Yeah.
But when I made it about someone else, and I made it about the movement, in the same way I left the professional world, when I made it about someone else and it was about serving, that's when the writing process became easy. And that's when I just let it go. And I had never in a million years dreamed it would be the success it's become.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, just hearing your story, I can't wait to get a copy. I love to write. I say that I'm a speaker that writes rather than a writer that speaks, but I know they're both out there. I
love it.
always encourage people to write their stories down. Say, if for nobody else, write them for you to read later to your children or to your spouse or someone else, because even if you are telling that story in the future, I would rather hear it from the person that's living it now. Because you're going to forget details and you're going to forget people's names and the emotions that just fill your writing with, I am living through the coronavirus right now. Me talking about it 20 years from now is not going to have the same impact as me reading about what I felt when it was going on. And there's not a single thing that I've written that I regret writing, but there's so many stories that I didn't write that I will forever regret not putting on paper. And I tell people all the time, just write it. Just write it. You don't ever have to let anybody else read it. The fact that you took not only the initiative to write that down, but also to speak about it and to encourage others, the paradigm shift between I'm writing it for me versus I'm writing it for someone else. It's incredible. It's incredible. I just got done reading Stephen King's On Writing, which is a book about writing, an author writing about writing. And he was like, who am I to write about writing? But it was more so his stories about how he got into it and when he could have stopped. And Carrie wouldn't have been a thing, and neither would any of his other best-selling novels. And the same with you. You wouldn't have a book sitting behind you if you didn't take initiative. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, thank you. And Stephen King, oh, so powerful, right? He's been a little bit successful and what a gift to the world. And think about this too, to take it a step further. I don't know if you've read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, quite possibly one of the most powerful books I've ever read in my life. If he didn't pick up pen to paper, that story would have been lost. And let's take it a step further. What about Anne Frank?
Yeah.
You know, if she was just writing in her diary.
Talk about legend.
You talk about legend and someone, and you know, legendary. We don't have to be rich and famous to be legends. And Anne Frank certainly in her time was no legend. Yeah. She's just somebody that was persecuted in all the wrong ways. And for those two people to write those pieces of work, you can think about the Bible and what they went through to write that. It just because they wrote it down and they were inspired and the muse came through them. Yeah. I think what you said about get your story down so you don't forget the names and we get so caught up in what others think. Yeah. And that's at the end of the day, people are craving connection. They're craving vulnerability. They're craving authenticity, and they're craving our voice and our souls. And if you write with soul and blood, if it just comes from your heart and you're not writing for someone else, you're just writing for the sake of writing and writing from blood and soul, it'll all be okay, man. But it's easier said than done, right? It's the same thing in business, right? We've got to wear these masks. We got to be stoic and perfect, and that's all nonsense.
I guarantee you probably didn't sit down and say, I'm going to write a book. You probably just started writing. And it's just like you don't walk outside and say, I'm going to run a marathon.
Right.
You start with a mile, and then you're tired and come in and you say, I'm never running again. You throw your shoes up on the shelf and it sits there for a while until you realize, hey, it's probably pretty good for me. Let's go back outside. The weather's nice, and I'll take a lap around the neighborhood, and that lap becomes a few miles, and that few miles becomes a half marathon, and a half marathon becomes a whole. And so, you know, just hearing your story it's inspired me, and I know it's inspired our viewers and listeners. I know we're running up against the clock here. How can people continue the conversation with you? How can they get a copy of Legendary in their hands and can continue to listen to what you have been feeding us this morning? Because it's a lot of life-giving material. You're speaking life into people, and that's what we have the opportunity to do every day. So how can they continue the conversation?
Hamilton, you're too kind, and what a gift. And so first of all, go to my website, tommybreedlove.com/gifts. And I'll give you a one-page document of my legendary life plan. It's how I live my life every single day to just be a little bit better than I was yesterday, to hopefully that you build your own. I also, I never told everybody this, but I'm telling them now because this is our unique times. But in that also you get my purpose statement. And I believe we all have a purpose here on earth until our last breath. And I do believe it changes depending on the season of our lives. Absolutely. But there's a simple formula and also my purpose of how you can find purpose to your life. And so I also provide that, but I used to not tell people this, but I also provide 2 free chapters of the book. And that always comes 3 days later. And it's the financial confidence and freedom chapters and the mastering our mindset chapters. And I think right now those are more important than anything, because we all have our insecurities, our fears, that voice inside our head that says we're not good enough. And these are simple steps that you can apply to your life to gain more financial confidence, and also to master your mindset, to minimize that noise in your head. And so you can follow me at Tommy Breedlove on Instagram, all over social media. But if you want the free stuff, it's tommybreedlove.com/gifts. And please follow me on Instagram at Tommy Breedlove. I'm trying to be I'm not trying. I hate the word try, by the way. I'm doing. You either do, like Yoda says, do or do not. There is no try. I'm being a light in this world. It's a very tough time for all of us. There's a lot of fear out there, and for all of us to just be positive, to be inspirational and motivational, and put one step forward to be a little bit better than we were yesterday, and to come from a place of service right now in these dark times. I put a lot of light out into the world, and it's intentional. So if you want some goodness on Instagram or Facebook, look me up at Tommy Breedlove, and it's out there for you. So thank you, Hamilton. This has been a gift, brother, this early in the morning.
Absolutely. And I got one more question for you. And it's
brother.
Not my question. We have a LinkedIn a viewer, I can't see who it is, that wanted to ask you a couple of questions. If you want to take those right quick,
totally.
we'd love to take that in. So the LinkedIn viewer is saying, how did Tommy know something was missing in his life, and what was the next step that he took? So how did you know something was missing, and what was the applicable next step that you took that people can take home with them?
So it started with a feeling. And I think for all of us, we are in the Western world, we're success driven, we're ambitious, we love business, we love getting up and contributing to the world. We want to be successful in life and love. And so every day I got off that elevator at work, and I found myself looking up at the sky. I would look out this office and look at the sky, and like, I'm missing something. It came from literally a visceral gut feeling that, hey, I'm at the top of the game, but I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. So it came from that gut feeling. So if you find yourself at night looking up at the stars, or looking up at your ceiling, or you find yourself at the dinner table, you're there with your beautiful family, and you're looking off in the distance, and your thoughts are wandering, you're like, I'm missing something. That's where it starts. And for me, I didn't know what that meant. And so I needed help. So I hired one of the most amazing coaches. Her name is Nancy Vito. She's in Atlanta, Georgia. She does national coaching. So I'm a big fan of hers, to help me find that purpose. And to me, I was missing purpose in my life. And purpose is all about fulfillment and something bigger than us. And so for me, I found someone to help me with it. But there's a million books and resources out there. Legendary. I'm going to promote my book. There's a whole chapter on purpose and fulfillment. There's YouTubes, there's tools. I'm a big fan of coaches. I am a coach. I am a mentor, but I have coaches, and I'm in a mastermind. So I'm constantly surrounding myself with better people. I needed someone to help me find what I was put here to do. And so it starts with a gut feeling. And I'm not going to lie to you, it takes a lot of courage. And so a lot of us are more content because we know what we're doing is safe. We know it pays the bill. But when you look out into the world, don't let the fear of the unknown prevent you from chasing what you were born to do. Because I promise you, on the other side, time and time again, it's so much better. And from money to happiness to fulfillment to peace of mind, it's so much better than it would be if you stay where you're unhappy. You're unhappy now. It's time to make a shift. And you can do it slowly, and it takes a lot of courage, but you can do it. And you're not alone in your insecurities and fears, by the way.
Of course.
Trust me. I know. I know.
That is so strong. You mentioned one more thing that I'll probably add on to that, if I may. You said that you heard the same thing 15 or 20 times from people. And most people notice your spiritual gifts before you do. And they're telling you from the outside, it's going to take a while. If you're waiting for you to tell you that you're free, you are your own captor. So when you're in those shackles, you got to listen to what everybody else is telling you how to get out of the maze. But I'm a pilot. And so you could be flying, and you could know that something's not quite right. The engine starts sputtering, or the bank angle is a little bit off. You're still flying, but you're not flying the way that flying is meant to happen. And so it sounds like you were flying, but something's just off, and you are your own best pilot to know how your gauges are supposed to act, how your engine sounds. There's just something not right here, but you did something to take the step to make it better, not only for you, but now we get to all be beneficiaries of your decision to change your life. So I sure do appreciate it, Tommy. You've been one of my favorite guests to date. And if we can ever have part 2, part 30, 50, you let me know where and when, and I'll be there.
I hope we can do it in person because we're in the same. Unfortunately, we can't do anything in person right now, but I hope we can do it in person sooner than later, brother. What an honor. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so humble. And thank you, Hamilton. This has been a gift for me as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for any of the viewers and listeners out there, if you're anything like me, you have thoroughly enjoyed this morning's conversation with Tommy Breedlove, best-selling author, speaker, mentor, coach, you name it. Tommy does it, and professional life speaker, because he speaks life into people. And I know this morning he's spoken life into me. We always appreciate you joining us here in the jungle. We'll be back next Thursday with me, but throughout the week with other hosts on our team. We appreciate your time this morning, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks again, Tommy.
Thank you. Such an honor.
Absolutely. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.